Inside a brightly lit arena, a fraction of a second before impact, everything is still perfect. A gloved fist travels through space at 40 miles per hour. It connects with a human jaw. To the crowd watching under the stadium lights, it is a single dramatic moment of athletic victory. But inside the skull, a completely different story is unfolding. Most people assume the danger of a punch lies in the cracked bone, the cut skin, or the external force of the collision. That assumption is incorrect. The real violence begins only after the fist has left the face. It is a silent, microscopic reaction that the human eye can never see, and challenges everything we think we might know about the limits of our own survival. When that fist connects, the jaw acts as a lever. It rotates the skull with such sudden, violent acceleration that the fluids surrounding the brain can no longer protect it. The brain, an organ with the fragile consistency of soft gelatin, does not simply sit there. It lags behind. It shears against the sharp, bony ridges of the inner skull, stretching microscopic nerve fibers past their breaking point. We tend to look at a fighter who gets knocked unconscious and think their body has simply turned off. Neuroscience suggests the opposite is actually true. A knockout isn't a sleep state, it's an electrical storm. The sudden stretching of all these nerve fibers causes a massive chaotic release of neurotransmitters all at once. Pretty much the brain's electrical grid short circuits. A desperate bid to protect itself from total systematic failure, the brain actually pulls its own master circuit breaker, which is pretty fascinating. It is a profound survival mechanism, but it comes at a hidden cost. For decades, sports medicine operated under a comforting belief: if a fighter wakes up, looks you in the eye, and remembers their name, the crisis has passed, The brain has healed. In recent years, researchers tracking long-term neurological data noticed something deeply unsettling. The immediate concussive symptoms, the dizziness, the headaches, the temporary confusion, are merely just like the smoke, just the brink of the iceberg pretty much. The fire is what happens weeks, months, and even years after the stadium lights have been turned off. When brain cells are stretched and compromised, they don't always die immediately. Instead, they enter a state of metabolic crisis. They desperately demand energy to repair themselves, but the surrounding blood vessels have constricted, choking off the oxygen supply. It is a silent, literally an internal starvation. If a second impact occurs during this fragile window, even a minor one, like a tiny hit onto the head, the results can be catastrophic. The brain loses its ability to regulate its own internal pressure. This introduces a chilling evolutionary paradox. The human skull evolved over millions of years to protect our ancestors from accident, falls, low velocity clubs, and the predictable hazards of nature. But it was never designed to withstand the highly optimized, the repetitive, kinetic energy of modern combat sports, just the constant punching to the face. Evolution built a wall to protect our consciousness, but we figured out exactly how to use physics to turn that vault into a weapon against itself. And yet, some individuals seem entirely immune. We have all seen the anomaly, the legendary fighter who can absorb a clean, devastating strike that would incapacitate any ordinary human, only to keep moving forward as if, literally nothing happened. In combat sports, we call this a granite chin, or also known as Justin Gaethje, baby. We attribute it to heart, to willpower, to courage even, but biology tells us a much colder story. A fighter's ability to take a punch has almost nothing to do with their mental toughness. It relies heavily on variables that they actually cannot control. The thickness of their cerebrospinal fluid layer, the structural density of their neck musculature, and their specific geometry of their skull, and also just in having dense bones. Yet, the data suggests this gift is ultimately an illusion. The brain that does not shut down is not avoiding damage. It is simply refusing to signal that damage is occurring, which sounds crazy. It continues to absorb these micro traumas, accumulating a neurological debt that must, eventually be paid. When we scale this out from a single fighter to the broader human experience, we find ourselves facing an uncomfortable philosophical reality. Every memory you possess, every emotion you feel, the very essence of who you are, is entirely dependent on a delicate, 3-pound mass of tissue suspended in darkness. It can withstand incredible pressure, adapt to profound trauma, and rewire its own pathways just to keep you alive. But it is fundamentally fragile. We watch these displays of extreme human endurance because they fascinate us. We are drawn to the edge of human limitation. But perhaps what we are truly looking at is the terrifyingly thin line between consciousness and nothingness, and the realization of just how little force it takes to cross it.